Well, come on along and welcome aboard. Thanks a lot for taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride. Wherever you're going, wherever you're headed, we appreciate you taking Indiana Sports Beat with you. From the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, hello, everybody. I'm Jim Coyle, as always. Jake's at the wheel, keeping things on the track. Hope your weekend was good and ready to get things started on Monday. Well, we're ready to help get you back to the grind. On the program today, one of our favorite guests, Kirk Hasted, former Hoosier great and now a Tennessee legislator. Look forward to talking to Kirk. He's always entertaining at the very least. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier will also join us. We'll talk to Matthew Smith about the United Basketball Clinics. They got a clinic coming up at Hoosier Gym up in Knightstown, so we'll talk to him about that. You'll hear from Coach Tom Allen as well. As we're underway. College football season is underway. Of course, Indiana's fall camp began last Friday. Was out there for that practice. Of course, the biggest question among many questions is the quarterback race for that number one spot. Peyton Ramsey, the heir apparent, or not the heir apparent, but the incumbent, at least, coming in to fall camp with Michael Penix and Jack Tuttle there as well. But after the first practice that I was able to see, I graded it on a 10-point must system. That's something I was thinking about that I'm going to do every day. I should be able to be at practice every day, but every day that we're allowed to be at practice, which is most of them, I'm going to grade that on a 10-point must system, just out of curiosity to see how that ends up with the final determination of who earns that top quarterback spot. My top spot went to Peyton Ramsey Friday. He's the most polished looking, which it makes sense. He has the absolute most experience coming into camp. You have to understand that these three guys have not practiced together when they're all healthy. So this is something new. This quarterback challenge, it has not happened to this level like it has now, with all three of them healthy and all three going for the job. But Peyton Ramsey definitely was the most polished on that first day, which stands to reason. We heard Tom Allen talk about that job and how that was going to come about.
What about him in particular is kind of put him in that position?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think he's a returning starter. I think there's a lot of merit in that, and he's earned it. And I think there's a level of when you put yourself in that position, like he has in the past. And, he had a chance to be a starter 2 years ago, and did it last year as well. And so, to me, reward him for that. But at the same time, like I said, I mentioned him in other positions, and I told Stevie Scott the same thing. And same thing with our linebackers and safeties and corners. Receivers and offensive line, it's just not just quarterback. That's the one that we usually just talked about. But, those other guys have the opportunity, and we'll have the opportunity to compete in the position and beat them out. So, but like you just say, who's going to go in with the one for the first time? It's going to be Peyton.
There you go. It's going to be Peyton going first. They have to dethrone him, and they haven't done so yet. So we'll see how that battle continues. But they've got weeks, a couple weeks, 3 weeks to run through this system, as we'll talk with Mike Schumann about later. And as I mentioned before, I think that they'll name a starter about a week before the kickoff against Ball State up in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. And that came from Tom Allen back when he was on my show and at the Big Ten Football Media Days. I asked him about that timeline, and he said he would probably go about a week before. Unless, of course, it really manifests itself to the point where they could do that. But I don't expect that to happen. As a matter of fact, I expect this quarterback battle to get more heated before anything, as Jack Tuttle and Michael Penix really Michael Penix has got to knock the rust off. It's not fair. You can't expect him to be top spot caliber just yet in the first day or so of camp. You got to give him a few days to get acclimated in there, knocking that rust off, suffering that season-ending knee injury last year. And then, of course, Jack Tuttle, new to the program as well. So those guys are both, they're behind the curve a little bit in the learning process. But I think that they'll pick that up and learn pretty quick. So we'll look forward to seeing how that works out. Well, I'll be out at football practice today. As soon as we're done here, I'll be heading to Memorial Stadium at the football complex. Also, the Big Ten Network begins their 14-city bus tour today, going to all the fall camps in the Big Ten. They start with Indiana here in Bloomington. I think you can catch that tonight at 6 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, but they will be at practice today. So you got that going on, something to look forward to. A little sad note, Mike Troy, he was 78 years old. He was a 1960 Olympian swimmer from Indiana. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, the two-time gold medalist, world record setter, 3-time NCAA champion, 5-time Big Ten champion, 6-time AAU champion, and 3 Pan American gold. He's a member of the International Swimming Hall of Fame, inducted in 1971. But we send our thoughts and prayers out to the Troy family, as I'm sure all of IU Athletics does, as well as Mike Troy dies at 78. Don't forget Archie Miller is going to be at the Shoulders Family Commons down at Evansville Harrison High School in Evansville. That's August 27th at 6 p.m. So it's free. So just first come, first serve. If you're going to go there, just doors open at 5:30. So go in and get yourself a seat. So there you go for that. Don't forget the Bierman Golf benefit is August 16th. That's down at Valley View Golf Course in southern Indiana, Floyd's Knobs, down in Floyd County outside of New Albany. So if you want to help the Bierman family out with their benefit, you can do so as there as well. But lots coming up on the program today. Got a text in from Tim talking about Deontay Craig. He is a kind of a unique recruit, that football recruit, mind you, that he's also, from what I understand, and according to Tim's text, received an offer to walk on the basketball team. His decision is down between Iowa and Indiana. He's from Culver. He's friends with Trey Galloway, obviously, but he was a member of that state title team on the basketball side, and also played for the football program, obviously. But that'd be another great recruit. And when you get a recruit that can do that, that means they are just a hell of an athlete, and you can't ever have too many of those. He's a 3-star, but he's a very high 3-star, probably bordering on a 4-star. But to be honest with you, I'd be shocked that the way Indiana's recruiting is going, that they don't get him. Iowa is a great program, nothing but respect for Coach Ferentz and that program. But the way the recruiting is going, I think that most people can see, and I think these kids can see, that program, the Indiana program, is trending upward, and I think they're going to want to be a part of it, especially with the opportunity to walk onto the IU basketball team. That I don't know that opportunity has been afforded him on the Iowa side. That may give IU the advantage. Tim texted in that he heard Tuttle is impressing everyone from day one at practice. Well, I was at practice day one, and he did okay. But Peyton Ramsey, of course, like I said, he won. I'm going to go round by round, and that was round one, and I gave that to Ramsey on the 10-point must system, 10-9-8 over Tuttle, then Penix. Like I said, though, you just got to give them a couple days, and they've had another practice in between when we've seen them. They started pads yesterday, so that's going to definitely heat up. I think it's going to take at least a week to really see anything of substance between those guys. But we'll certainly keep our eye on it, because it's the biggest question people want to know. Now, here's the big thing, though, and I understand, because I was of the same mindset for a while. People they're already set on the fact that, well, Peyton Ramsey can't be the quarterback of this team, because they've seen him quarterback the team the last 2 years and not much production. Part of that I don't believe is his fault. I think with the new scheme and the things that they're going to be doing, that it's very possible that he may have increased his arm strength, and because that was his one knock, that was his deficiency, is being able to get the ball downfield. If he can't get the ball downfield, then he's not going to be the guy. Because that's going to be a very important part of this offense, no doubt. But they got a lot of other things that are important as well. They're getting the running backs involved in the passing game a lot more this year. The tight end is going to carry a heavier load this year with this offense. So we'll see how it goes. But I have complete confidence that whatever decision Kalen DeBoer makes, that he's making the right decision. He comes in with fresh eyes. He has no loyalty to any quarterback. He hasn't coached Peyton Ramsey or Jack Tuttle or Michael Penix prior to arriving here a few months back. So Whereas Coach Allen last year, I think, had a sense of loyalty to Peyton Ramsey, and I think that he let that override the decision to start him. And I think it should have been Penix, but now you've got Kalen DeBoer, like I said, fresh eyes. Whatever decision he makes, I'm going to completely respect, because this guy has done nothing but set offenses afire wherever he's been. And so you're going to have to bear through the process, and we'll see how that works out. I don't know how it's going to end up, but whatever the decision they come up with, I'm going to be fine with, because I know that there's been a fresh set of eyes that is an offensive – I don't want to call him a guru yet, but very offensively talented. So he knows what he's doing. He knows what he needs to get the job done. And if it's Penix, he's going to choose Penix. And Coach Allen is not going to override that. That's for certain. He has really taken a hands-off approach and letting the coordinators do their jobs on both sides of the ball. So whatever decision that Kalen DeBoer ends up making as far as the starting quarterback, I think will be the right decision. He knows what he's doing, and we'll see how that works out. So, but I think the fans need to understand you cannot just go on what you saw last year or the year before that, because that was a different offense. And well, it's all new. Everybody gets a fresh start. So looking forward to that as well. On the program today, we'll talk with Matt Smith here this hour. He's with the United Basketball Clinics. They're having a clinic up at the Hoosier Gym in Knightstown, which is, of course, the home of the Hickory Huskers from the movie Hoosiers. It was not really where they played, but this is one of those cool gyms, man. If you haven't been to the Hoosier Gym up in Knightstown, it's due east of Indianapolis. You're doing yourself a disservice. It's just a cool place to be, man, and especially if you're a coach listening. They got a great clinic coming up, and it may end up being the biggest one that they've ever done. It sounds like these clinics were originally done all over the country, and now they've kind of found a home at Hoosier Gym, and for the last 3 years they've been there. But we'll look forward to talking to Matthew Smith about that later on in this hour. Then in the next hour, we joined by one of my absolute favorite guests. He is never anything short of entertaining. Kirk Haston, a member of Bob Knight's last team, as a matter of fact. But now he's a Tennessee legislator as well. And he's coaching high school basketball and been very involved in that. We'll look forward to talking to Kirk on the program today. That's in the next hour. We'll start with him as soon as that hour hits, though. Normally we go into the second segment, but he's worth a double segment, man. He's just too entertaining. So looking forward to talking to Kirk. And then Mike Schumann, of course, from the Daily Hoosier will join me in that second hour as well. We'll talk some IU football. We'll talk some IU basketball. We're waiting for the assistant coach's hire for Archie Miller. See who that's going to be. It's they're not in a terrible hurry, but the reason that they haven't hired him yet makes you wonder what's the holdup. Do they have their guy? I know they're down to a couple. Is it someone that they're having to talk into the job, or do they have restrictions from a current contract that are holding this up? Again, it's not like there's a ton big hurry, because most of the recruiting is set for this year. I mean, they don't have their commitments completely yet, but the recruiting of those guys that they're trying to get is pretty much set. I mean, you've got the commitment from Trey Galloway, Anthony Leal next up with Stanford and IU, his favorites. I think he picks IU, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, these kids make their own decision on what is best for them. He may think that's Stanford, and who's going to say that's wrong? My gosh, one of the best universities to attend in the country. Indiana, of course, one of the top academic schools as well. Great place. He could play at home, but it's whatever decision is best for them, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know how much longer his recruitment is going to go before he makes a decision, but we'll find out. And then Indiana has two other open spots. I really believe that they're going to bank one of those for next year, so they have that for that 2021 class, which is huge and talented. So they would like to have as many opportunities as possible next season to do that. Also, there's going to be the question with Jerome Hunter, whether after the season, if he can't come back this season, what is the future of that scholarship? That's a scholarship spot that's been taken up for 2 years, and we certainly hope he can get back and play for a number of reasons. Mainly, first of all, for himself, for his best health, and so he can do that. But well, however that works out, that's going to have to work itself out. But we'll certainly find out. But we got a lot coming up on the program today. Like I said, looking forward to getting to each and every one of it. And then afterwards, we'll be out at IU practice. We'll be talking with, I'm not sure who's up on who we get to talk to today. I think some players, maybe offensive coordinator, but we'll have all that for you later on and tomorrow on the show. But make sure you stay tuned. We got plenty more coming up from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. I'm Jim Coyle. We're back with a reboot of Todd Leary right after this.
It's what you get. It's what you get. What you see. What you see. It's what you get. It's what you get. I said what you see. It's what you get. No, baby. It's what you get.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moyer.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Hi, this is A.J. Moyer, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
He was always, well, first thing I found out about him is I started to hate Purdue just because he hated Purdue so much. I, didn't even go here. Well, I didn't even know I was going to go here, and I hated Purdue for just no reason.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Of course, come to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. With us now, the Todd father. I played that just for you, Todd. That's potential quarterback Jack Tuttle for Indiana. Learning to hate Purdue before he even knew who Purdue was, basically.
Well, that's good. I mean, you got to learn the essentials if you're going to be down there. So that's one of them.
His father was a walk-on kicker at Indiana, and he said that's. Someone asked him yesterday, what's your father? How's he played a role in your all that stuff? And he said, well, one of the first things I learned was to hate Purdue. So yeah, he's ahead of the game. Half the guys that come here aren't in tune to that, but he was primed and ready as soon as he stepped on campus.
Well, if his dad was a kicker, I mean, does the family just like disregard him also, just like football teams usually do, or is he actually a part of the family?
Exactly. It's like being the last guy on the bench, man. Oh, but Ben, how are you doing, brother?
I'm good. Getting finishing another week here. Just got the move all settled, so I am excited to be stuck in the same spot for a little while.
We had your buddy Pat Graham on yesterday.
Did you?
Sir. Oh, yeah. Patrick, I don't know if Jakes has the clip ready, but he didn't get it ready. But I told him that you make me call you the Todd father. He got a kick out of that.
Yeah, you know what? It probably wouldn't surprise him. He knows I've got some weird quirkiness, so he probably would not be utterly shocked by that.
How's the Todd father summer going?
It's going great. It is good. I like I said, I got the move to Evansville all completed, and revisited some people that I knew back from college and had met back then. So it's been a lot of fun. I like going to new places and stuff like that. I like traveling and that stuff. So going to new areas isn't a big shock to me, and I am enjoying it. Major places.
You hear that? So, yeah, you hit Paducah, Evansville, all the major sightseeing places.
Yeah. Metropolises.
Indiana basketball, of course, in kind of just a slow, nothing going on period in the summer. Well, people think that, but of course, behind the scenes, the workouts and all that are going on. The summer workouts. What were the summer workouts for you guys like? You're kind of away from the spotlight. You don't have the media around. You don't have the fans around, but there's stuff going on back behind the scenes. What were those summer times like for you guys?
They sucked. Like they were awful. We had at least to this part of the year, they don't have the summer school portion of it, hopefully. So the first session of summer school, so it starts right after school ends in May. That next Monday, summer school first session starts up, and so when you're doing that, you've got a morning workout between like 5:30 and 6, and then you got class from like 8 to 10 or 11. And then you go work from like 11 or noon till 5. And then you have afternoon workouts from like either 5:30 or 6 o'clock for a couple of hours. And I mean, it's just exhausting. Like it's a lot of work. I mean, that's kind of what you say, when you're trained, when you leave IU, especially when I was there. I mean, you're trained to have good work ethic, and, there's no options. It's not like you can choose to not go to summer school or choose to not have one of the jobs or whatever. Like you're forced to do that stuff. And it's a good thing. I'm saying it, at the time I was like, this sucks, but it trains you to have good work ethic and work hard and what's expected of you. And so, when you've got goals for weightlifting and that stuff. And I mean, I had made the comment to you before, like I came into IU weighing 160 pounds. And I had fake weightlifted for a long time in high school, but I mean there was not a whole lot of muscle on me. And so they set these goals for you, and you've got to get to them. I mean, trying to hit squat goals, it's not easy for someone who's not done it a lot. So there's a lot that goes on. The summertime is not, the season is not October or November through April. The season is all year long, and these guys are so big and so athletic and so strong nowadays. Like they are working their butts off, and there's not really an off season.
How does one fake weight training get away with it?
I can't really tell you. I know that back then, I know that a lot of times when the teachers or the people would be in one side of the classroom, I know like I was in the other one, and when you're supposed to do like sets of, maybe 15 or 20 reps, like I'm really good at like the first two or the last two, but I'm going to say those middle ones don't really happen. And So you don't build a whole lot of muscle when you're only doing 2 or 3 reps of everything.
I hear that. Now we look at the Indiana recruiting. Last year, of course, they brought in, or this year, it's from last year's class, but Trace Jackson Davis and Armand Franklin. The upcoming class, they've got 4 open scholarships. I think that they may end up banking one of those, but of those 3, I think 2 of the kids are also will be from Indiana. That gives them 4 out of 5 in this last class. And then that 2021 class, I think they're going to pull in, again, a bunch of kids from Indiana. And all told, I think by the end of that 2021 deal, Indiana could be 10 of 13 on the roster from Indiana, which that's a high number even for back in your day.
Yeah, that is for sure a high number. I don't care what school you're talking about, anywhere across the country. That's a big number, all from one state. So, that's always been a thing. That it was huge when Coach Knight was there, because you kind of had to know what you were signing up for. I think there was some people it just wasn't made out for. I mean, obviously Larry Bird, it wasn't made for Larry Bird, and it wasn't like he didn't turn out to be nothing. It's not for everyone. And so the Coach Knight thing, you kind of have to prepare for that and be ready for it and know what it is. I don't necessarily know it's the same thing anymore. I mean, I think a lot more kids would fit into the Indiana system today than they would have back then. So the pool is bigger, and I just, I think that it's getting back. I think the recruiting wise, it's getting back to the point of they're doing the right things where they're making kids aware that they're interested in them. Recruiting is so much more difficult now than it used to be. I mean, you basically have to start recruiting a kid, in the 8th or 9th grade for sure, if you want to be in on the front end of it. And you understand the fact of, kids' first impressions. It's a big deal to them to get that first offer, that they get that first real big school looking at them. Kids generally don't forget who that is. And, it's like a first girlfriend kind of thing. But these guys, you've got to be in on the front end of it, or you're fighting an uphill battle the whole way. And these coaches and recruiting specialists at these schools know that, and it's just a big deal. So they've got to start so much earlier, and a lot of that becomes a guessing game because you're dealing with a kid that in the 8th grade, you look at his parents, and in the 8th grade he might be 5'11", and you're hoping that by the time he's in the 11th grade, he gets to 6'3" or 4 or 8 or whatever you think he might get to. And so you're kind of also guessing. That's why I think they put the feelers out on so many different kids, because you're almost kind of guessing as to what they're going to be like in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and when we talk about the Indiana kid, this and that, I don't think that it's completely imperative that the kids be from Indiana, but it's just the sheer fact that Indiana produces so much stinking talent that you think about the guys that got away, the Cal guys, the Teagues, the Mays, Montrose, the guy you played with. There's so much talent that got away from this state that you're like, wow, how good Indiana could have been. Duke and Kentucky combined, if they could have just kept those players in state.
Yeah, and it is. And I don't care who's recruiting or who's doing what. You're not going to get every great kid. Just because a kid is a really good basketball player doesn't mean he wants to go to the state of Indiana. I mean, there's just different ties to different things. I think Kyle Guy, I'm not sure he could have picked a better school for him. I mean, I think they ran a system that was great for him. That just wasn't at Indiana at the time. And I'm not even sure today. I do think Kyle Guy would have he's a bad example for what I'm saying, but I think he would be great in the Indiana system. You take some different guys. Indiana produces more high IQ basketball players, and that starts with, people who grew up loving basketball and all that. I mean, these kids are getting coaching from the time they're in kindergarten in the 1st grade from higher quality coaches than I would say what you get out of Texas or, Las Vegas or somewhere like that. I mean, you've got people teaching these kids that know fundamentals and know stuff and have loved basketball since they were kids. And so that's I think why you get so many more high IQ basketball players. It's just a matter of whether they grow they grow to the point where they can play in Division One because or they're athletic enough to play in Division One because the basketball IQ part of it is there, and I think that's probably what's produced more in Indiana than anything.
Well, and we haven't spoken since Trey Galloway committed to Indiana. Trey Galloway kind of fits into exactly what you just talked about. He's a coach's son. He's got obviously a very high basketball IQ. You could just watch him play and see that. But he's very talented. He's a utility player. He can do so many different things. 6'5" wing guard, can shoot the ball. He's not a Pat Graham or a Todd Leary, but he can shoot the ball. But he can get to the rim. He can do things that some guards can't do. He's a real utility player, but he's got that hard-nosed edge to him, that kind of player that you think that Archie Miller is going to have on his team. That's it right there in a nutshell, I think.
Yeah, and I think that he's so much more athletic than the guy I'm going to say, but he's kind of the utility guy
talk about
like
me?
Ty Jerome was for Virginia.
Oh.
In that he can do so many different things. Like he can bring the ball up the floor if you need him to, or he can play the 2 guard, or he could probably even play a 3 and get to that point. And it'll take him, he'll need to get a little bit bigger and more physical for that, but he's got the size and the athletic ability to be able to be that. And so you're right. He's the kind of player that coaches should love to have on their team because, as you said, he's lived in a house his entire life where his dad has talked basketball and been a coach. And so the kid is smart basketball from a basketball perspective. He thinks it, he understands it. He knows, what time, when to make certain plays and when they're not good plays. And, every team I think needs a guy like that. I'm excited for Archie to have a guy like that and have someone. I do. I think that every team needs a couple of those guys. Now, you also need guys that are 6'9", and you need guys that are super quick and crazy athletic, and you need all that stuff. But I do think that Galloway's a kid that will fill a lot of different roles for Indiana. And I'm not saying he'll be a role player. I'm saying he'll be an outstanding player, but he'll be able to do that in a bunch of different roles for IU.
And because one of the things that at least is the perception is the last year's team, the year before that, they didn't have a lot of cohesiveness and they didn't have a lot of toughness. It didn't appear that they had this toughness. Those guys that were diving on the floor for loose balls and beating and banging, or that alpha male that never stood up or stepped out or made itself known. And that's something I think you have to have on any team. You got to have that leader, that force, somebody, the enforcer or whatever the case is. Who was your enforcer when you were playing?
Well, Jamal was a big part of being the enforcer. When we got there, Jamal loves to talk and he uses his mouth a lot.
He still does.
He's that little pit bull barking dog all the time that, whenever there was a fight, believe me, you wanted to be right behind Jamal because he was going to clear a path. And so, he was kind of that guy. And I think a lot of us just we were just, I don't know if toughness is the right word, but we were just cocky, kind of arrogant idiots, and you have to back that up. You can't really talk that and then run away from it. So, I think a lot of us wanted to be, we fought to see who was going to be the leader and who was going to, step up. And when times were tough, who was going to be the guy that was talking and who was going to be the guy that was helping everybody out. And that's what we all wanted to be. We all wanted to be that guy. Or not, I wouldn't say we all. There were several of us that wanted to be that guy. And that's a good thing to have. That is not a negative to have too many guys that are trying to be leaders. When you get fake leaders and some of that, I call it fake hustle and that stuff. There's guys who would dive on the floor, but they're diving on the floor, somewhat cautiously, not throwing themselves a million miles an hour on the floor as hard as you can. And, those guys are the guys who are playing know who those guys are and know what it's like playing with those guys, but we just didn't have that. And I don't see that in any of the guys. I think Rob Finnessy will be a guy that throughout the course of his career will continue to get a little bit more vocal and a little bit tougher and He's already a tough kid, but I think just being more vocal about it is something. It's not his personality, but I think he'll grow into it a little bit more than he was in his first year. He had just an outstanding playing year. I think he'll improve a ton in the next couple of years over how he leads the team and how he gets other guys to follow him.
I know you're busy. You don't get a lot of chance to get on social media, but the Jamal Meeks on Facebook, he's got his Fat Boy Fitness Club going. Wherever he goes, you can see him on a treadmill, and he's got the camera on his phone and just talking, being typical Jamal. It's kind of comical. It's pretty comical.
Me at all.
Pretty comical.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. And he's probably talking trash to the treadmill because he will talk trash to anyone.
It's great. Todd, man, I cannot thank you enough, brother. I appreciate you. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful weekend.
I appreciate it, buddy. I'll talk to you next week. Look forward to it.
Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat coming back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
The morning's here. We're all still awake. Just looking for some more drugs to take. Pack that on a mound of fire ants. Only lost a shoe and a pair of pants.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, of course, with Jim Coyle, as always, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, joined now by Matthew Smith from United Basketball Clinics. Matthew, how are you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for connecting with me. I really appreciate it.
You bet, man. You bet. I know you guys get around a lot, but you've got an event coming up at the Hoosier Gym, of course, home of the Hickory Hoosiers, if you're not familiar with that, the gym in Knightstown. Looking forward. When is that event, Matt?
It's August 23rd and 24th. It's a Friday evening and all-day Saturday event.
And who all attends this event? Who is this intended for? Who's your audience?
Most of our coaches are high school girls and boys coaches. I'm trying to get more middle school coaches there. We have AAU coaches, small college coaches at times, but I would say 80% of the attendees are boys and girls coaches with, the occasional college coach in there, middle school. I try to convince high school coaches to bring your whole staff, including your feeder schools, your middle schools. That way you can kind of all be on the same page with things.
And this one coming up here at Knightstown at the Hoosier Gym in Indiana, how big is this one anticipated to be?
Well, right now we have over 100 pre-registered, and my expectation is I believe we can get to 150 because usually coaches sign up. There's sign-ups are stronger when school starts back, and I know schools in Indiana are starting back within the next week or so. So I think once schools starts back, that we will have our sign-ups go through the roof. So I'm hoping for 150. That would be the largest clinic that we've done so far. But I think with the great lineup of speakers we have, that's definitely possible.
And of the many hundreds of people that are already coming, are these mainly Indiana coaches?
Yeah, most are Indiana coaches, but what's amazing is I have a college coach from California flying in. I have a college coach from Miami flying in. We have several coaches from Wisconsin, several from Kentucky, and I know 4 or 5 that are driving from Atlanta that are, in my same coaching league that I coach in. So I would say right now about 80% are Indiana, but with, Illinois, Kentucky, and then you get that rare guy who wants to travel across the country for it.
Yeah. And Matt, you're a high school coach in Georgia, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I coach at Gordon Lee High School. I've coached in Tennessee and Chattanooga for roughly the last 18 years, but right now I'm in a small single-A school, about 430 kids in a really rural town in northwest Georgia.
Well, if you can ever get him, just because he's a very busy guy, let me tell you, you need to get a Kirk Haston, the former Indiana Hoosier, who's now a Tennessee legislator, as a matter of fact. He was just on with us again not too long ago, but what a great guy. But he's still, I think he's in his last year of coaching now because of being in the legislature. But there's someone when you ever want to do one in Tennessee for you. But look at who are some of the people you have speaking coming up at this clinic?
Yeah, this year I would say we have our largest, or I would call this like a national clinic, because in the past we had coaches from Butler and Valpo, and last year we had Ed Schilling from Indiana. So we've kept it in Indiana for the most part with some high school coaches and college coaches. This year we have Vance Wahlberg, and any basketball coach knows Vance Wahlberg. He created the dribble drive, which Kentucky made popular, Memphis made popular, NBA teams run it. It's kind of like was a fad in basketball for a while, and it's still really popular. He was an NBA coach for several years, a Division I coach, coached at University of Massachusetts. He's actually going to come in and do 2 sessions. He's flying in from Fresno. He's going to give a session on Friday night for his full court defensive system, and then on Saturday he's going to give a 90-minute session on the dribble drive offense. I mean, Vance Wahlberg, what's cool about him is he's back to coaching a high school in California. He just loves basketball. He's been NBA Division I, and now he's coaching high school basketball again. I have Mike Neighbors, the University of Arkansas women's coach, and Mike Neighbors is one of the best clinicians in the country. He is an excellent communicator. His topics are always good for coaches of middle school, high school, college, AAU. We have John Kaufman from Fort Wayne, Doug Porter from Bethel, and then we have Dave Love, who's a NBA shooting coach. He's been with the Suns, the Magic, the Cavs, and he does a lot of shooting sessions all over the world. I think right now he's in Australia working with some of their pro teams. And Coach Kaufman spoke at our clinic 2 years ago, and I love him. He's a phenomenal communicator. He's going to talk about his motion offensive system there. So we have a wide variety of speakers, pro, college, shooting coach, former NBA coach, women's coaches. So it's a good clinic for anyone.
How much? What's the cost for someone to attend this?
Yeah, if you come Friday and Saturday, it's $110. If you do Saturday only, it's $70. But there's also same staff discounts in there. So if you register and bring your staff of 3 or 4, you save roughly $10 per coach. So I definitely try to work with these coaches so they can bring as many coaches as possible. And we have a hotel right there in Greenfield that's giving us a good discount, the Holiday Inn Express there. Lunch is provided on Saturday, so you don't have to worry about leaving and finding your lunch and coming back. We really try to take care of you. And I think what's so great is when the coaches get there, they just fall in love with the Hoosier gym. I mean, I've seen D1 coaches who've coached all over the country go to the locker room and relive some scenes that Gene Hackman did and have me video it on their phone. And so I think the venue is a bucket list venue for people who love basketball, and to have that venue and 5 or 6 phenomenal speakers in a weekend at our price point, I don't think you can beat this clinic.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place, man. It's pretty special whenever you're in there. It's just it's a unique deal. If you haven't seen the movie, I don't know where you've been living, but especially if you're listening to this show, it'd be shocking for someone not to have seen Hoosiers. But just being in that gym, being in that locker room, it's just it's amazing. It truly is, and it's still has that same old feel, which is very cool. But looking forward to that. How do people sign up for this? How do they find all the information that they need to get to?
Sure. All the registration is done online at UnitedBasketballClinics.com, just UnitedBasketballClinics.com. There's a tab for 2019 clinics, and you'll see Knightstown, and it's pretty turnkey from there. And again, if anybody wants to contact me, my email is matthew15smith@gmail.com. I can answer any questions because, if someone says, I want to bring 10 coaches to contact me, and I can even, give you a better deal since, I run the clinics in the company. But I just want coaches to come and get better. I know that today's modern world, we do everything on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. But, I've seen all Vince Wahlberg's videos, but nothing's going to be like watching Vince Wahlberg speak. I can raise my hand and ask a question. And the one great thing about this is we have a college team on the floor used for demonstration. We have Indiana East, their women's team coming on Friday night, and a men's team on Saturday. So you just don't hear these guys lecture and talking from a whiteboard. They're out there with the college team, and the college team is just learning this as well. So you can get to see how their teaching points with the inexperienced group, and that's what makes this so great. You get to see things in action and in real time and real speed, and you can get out your cell phone and take a video and take notes and things like that. So I think this is a really great clinic. As someone who's been a basketball coach for almost 2 decades and attended tons of clinics, I made a clinic that, again, you don't have to take off work. You can be home with your family by Saturday night, and the price point is really affordable. And I think those 3 things make this a phenomenal event. And the Hoosier Gym's been so welcoming of us for 3 straight years.
Yeah, they do a great job there. What's the guy who's been coaching for 10 years? He's kind of a veteran. What's he going to learn at a clinic like this?
I think you have a veteran coach who's been doing this 10 or 15 years. I think a lot of times coaches get set in their ways, and not that that's a bad thing. Your way could be very successful. But I think what they may learn is some new terminology, a new way to teach a concept that they've been doing for 15 years, but, John Kaufman shows you a little better way to teach the motion offense. You can make this a little more understandable for your players. And also, we're always looking for new drills and techniques to make practices a little more competitive and not so redundant. So I think that's what's so great about this clinic. When I tell people when they come to the clinic, you'll learn so much information, but you cannot implement it all that season. I would just try to get 4 to 5 points. One may be terminology, one may be a drill, one may be a different method of teaching something, and then you can sit down with your staff and try to make better practice plans. I think that's the whole thing about coaching basketball. It's just like teaching in the classroom. We make lesson plans. We want to get the most out of our 90 minutes or 2 hours with our team in the most efficient manner where there's not as much standing around. And I think that's what we'll learn from these coaches who have, a lot of these guys have been at the high school level, so they know exactly what we're dealing with.
How long you guys been doing this, Matt?
This is our third year in the Hoosier Gym, but I started these, I think my first clinic was 2000, maybe 13 or so in Chattanooga. And, you know, I've had Rick Bird, Will Wade, Kermit Davis, and, you know, Rick Bird's one of the best coaches ever. He was at Belmont. Obviously, the other two are SEC coaches now. So Chattanooga was a great spot. And then people started reaching out to me about hosting them in other cities. And like I said, we've been all the way to Minneapolis, to Greenville, and this year we're going to be in Atlanta for the first time.
Looking forward to that. And then the dates again are August 23rd and 24th. What's kind of the timeline that goes on for a day? What's happening during the day?
Yeah, well, Friday night starts at 6 o'clock. We have 2 sessions that night, but they're 90-minute sessions. So a lot of clinics, you go in 50 minutes, and people in and out. It's not really enough time for the guys to communicate their thoughts and their topic. So Mike Neighbors is going to go from 6 to 7:30, take a 15-minute break, and then Vance Wahlberg is going to go for about 90 minutes. On Saturday, we get started at 9. We have registration from 8:15 to 9. So what helps is if people register online, it speeds up the process because we always get quite a few walk-ups. And then we have a session. Each session goes an hour. Some are an hour and 20 minutes. We have breaks in there. We have a 30 to 45-minute lunch break. So, you know, we keep it moving, but you're out of there by 3:30 on Saturday and, you know, get home, catch a football game, have time with your family. I don't want to take time away from guys' families. I know we're all busy as coaches and teachers, but, you know, you can do this, and we don't take a lot of time. Also, we have Dr. Dish sponsors our clinic, so Dr. Dish will be in there showing off their products. We have some other basketball companies that set up booths. So it's just a really good time. And I think one thing I love about these clinics is coaches always see a friend they haven't seen in a decade or so that maybe coaching in a different part of the state. So it's a great time to network, see old friends, and just reconnect with people.
Sounds like a good time. And again, how do they get in touch with you to register for this? What's the proper place to go to for all that?
Sure. UnitedBasketballClinics.com. It's a pretty easy website. Find 2019 clinics. You register online, and then you can either pay at the clinic, you can pay through an online service we have, or mail a check to me. So, you know, if a guy, they can register, and then most people go there, pay out their school account, and then they get that check sent from their school. So we're pretty laid back on when and how we get the money. What we just want is kind of have a general number, because when we order lunch, it's kind of we want to make sure we have enough. But, yeah, and again, if someone wakes up on Friday morning and decides they want to go to the clinic, we take walk-ins. You do not have to pre-register at all.
Sounds good, man. Well, appreciate it. Hope it turns out great. Looking forward to that. The Hoosier Gym, what a great place to be for anything. But that's United Basketball Clinics going on the 23rd and 24th. Matt Smith, thank you so much, man. I hope it goes great.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
You bet. That was Matthew Smith from the United Basketball Clinics. As I said, their clinic going on the 23rd and 24th of this month out at the Hoosier Gym out of Knightstown. So that's a cool deal, man. A lot of Indiana high school coaches will be out there checking that out. Glad we could talk to them. Indiana football practice underway. I'll be heading out there as soon as we're done here on the program today. Got the opportunity to speak with Coach Tom Allen immediately after the first practice, and now I think they've had another practice that we weren't allowed to go to. They first put the pads on, but Miles Marshall had a great day receiving in that first day. Let's hear what Coach Allen had to say.
Yeah, you know, he's had a great off season. Thought he had a really strong spring. Thought he worked really hard this summer and caught a ton of balls, you know, on judgment scenes and all the things we try to do with those guys throwing together, throwing more as a quarterback and receiver core. So yeah, I got big expectations for him. He's a big receiver that can run, and he's very smooth in and out of his breaks. And we're going to need them all. We're going to need every one of those receivers to rise up and play really, really well. So I was encouraged by the way he made some really good, strong, contested catches in there, and that's what you want to see.
That's a name that we haven't heard a lot we always hear about Donovan Hale and Nick Westbrook and Walt Fillier and all those guys, but that's the thing about this offense this year. You never know who's going to rise up. Last year it was Stevie Scott. That was not expected at all. Of course, that came out of a different situation with the loss of the former running back that was suspended basically. Morgan Ellison, couldn't remember his name, so my bad. But, you never know who's going to rise up, and that's the thing. That's what makes things great. But we'll certainly find out. Like I said, I'll be heading back out to football practice as soon as the broadcast is over. But that's going to wrap it up for this hour. We got another one coming up here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moyer.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former Indiana basketball player Greg Graham. Keep up with the Hoosiers on the Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
And welcome to Indiana Sports Beat. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate you taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride. Jim Coyle with you, as always. Jake at the wheel, keeping things on the track. Coming to you, of course, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Packed show on tap today. Joined by one of my absolute favorite guests, Kirk Hasted, on the program today here very shortly. Also, Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier is going to join us as well. Football practice for Indiana continues today. I'll be out there as soon as we get off here, heading out to practice. They're now in pads as things kick it up a notch. As fall camp gets underway in full gear now, as many things to be determined, who the quarterback's going to be. I started something last week at the first practice we saw. I graded the quarterbacks on the old boxing grading scale, the 10-point must system. And Peyton Ramsey, of course, came out on top in that first practice. He looked the sharpest. He had some nice throws, hit a nice pass to Ivory Winters along the sideline in stride. So those guys look like they're getting it going, but we'll see. Got a lot coming up yet. 3 more weeks of practice yet to get going on that. But also on the program, we'll talk with Mike Schumann later on today. We'll talk a little football, but also a little basketball. There's a recruit that Indiana's in his final 2, I think, Dante Craig. I look forward to talking to him. He's a unique athlete because he's looking at potentially playing basketball, and IU has allegedly apparently offered him the opportunity to be a walk-on. So that could be very interesting. We'll keep track of that and see how that goes as well. Not a lot going on in the world of recruiting, but very, very happy to be joined by one of the best guests we have, Kirk Hasted. I'm so excited to have Kirk on the show. Kirk, how are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you having me on, but I wish you would do more of under promise and over delivering on that, so I can have a little wiggle room.
I don't ever have to worry about that, man. You are always the top of the line. It's almost like having Jerry Seinfeld or somebody come on. It's like you're like the star, man. You're the top billing.
Oh, so this is the exact opposite of the favor I was just asking you. But we'll see how it goes.
Man, you are a man of many hats. You're coaching, you're teaching, you're husbanding, you're fathering, and now you're legislating. How do you have time to do all that stuff? You are so involved in the service of mankind, but man, you sure are stretched thin.
Well, I was this year, and that was kind of the trade-off. I told my wife that if I did win the election and was elected to serve in the House here in Tennessee, that I would step down from coaching. The issue with that was I couldn't step down from coaching, until I knew that I had been elected, and so there ended up being this about 4-week, this 4-week time period of overlap where. The legislature started in January, and of course we had about 4 weeks of our basketball season going on. So that was the 4 weeks that just about killed me. After I made it through that, it was kind of downhill the rest of the way during the session up until down to May. But I did end up stepping down from coaching after 9 years of high school basketball. So now I think the trade-off is going to be pretty good. I still stay pretty busy with doing my school work, but also with the legislative work. But I get a little bit more time at home, not having to go to practice and summer camps and everything. It'll be weird this school year getting home every day at like 3:00 instead of like 5:30 or 6 in practice. So I'm looking forward to that part of it.
And I know, like I said, you were stretched so thin, but there has to be a party that is going to miss the coaching basketball. You've been around it for so long; it's been a big part of your life.
Yeah, well, it's really been a blessing timing wise because my oldest son is going into 5th grade, so he'll be playing some middle school basketball this year. It's the 5th grade's the first year they can start playing, and then my middle child is also going to go into basketball in another couple of years. He'll be going into 3rd grade, so. I'm just going to shift my team coaching into some individual coaching and just work with them and be able to go to their games. But when we do get around to district play in the season this year, it will be strange to be sitting in the stands and watching and not game planning and watching film. It will hit me a little bit harder than it will probably in the middle of the summer.
And now that you're not coaching, that should free up a little bit of time. Will that give you more of an opportunity to possibly get back to Bloomington and taking that game? Because when you're doing all that, you really don't have time to do anything, especially when you're in Tennessee.
Yeah, it was really like trying to, it was really a tough needle to thread during the basketball season to find games that I could go to in Bloomington. And I was able to get up, I think, to 2 or 3 games. I brought up some of my senior basketball players, usually during the Christmas break when we had about 4 or 5 days without a game, and it just so happened that the Hoosiers would be playing at home. So with no basketball schedule to have to kind of look at, I should be able to make it up hopefully for an extra game or two than I usually do. So and hopefully we'll be able to get up there, and I'd like to take my kids up and take it and show them around and kind of show them the old stomping grounds a little bit.
Now, have you had opportunity to talk to Coach Archie Miller much?
I haven't that much. He's reached out, social media, and they've sent some emails and stuff out, and I have liked how, and I thought that Coach Crean did a good job of this to begin with, and I think that Coach Miller is doing a really good job too of reaching out to past players and just kind of creating that family atmosphere that had, for whatever reason, seemed to kind of wane there for a few years. I think that we're getting back to where it's feeling more of an extended family, and you always want that. You always want the former players and managers and coaches to feel like they have a real, family connection to the current team each and every year. I think that's really important just for the strength of your program and just it creates a really good culture and atmosphere.
Well, talk about the family atmosphere, and for your era, I guess you have to go to the godfather of IU basketball, Bob Knight, and the fact that he came to a baseball game at Indiana last spring. I forgot about that. You were one of the last guys that get to play for him here. That had to be wild for you to see him back at Indiana last year.
That was great. That really did. I had to. It was one of the. I think I can't remember. I gave him credit when I retweeted the picture, but there was a really good photograph that somebody had posted on Twitter. I think it was somebody maybe at the local paper there, but it had a great picture of him. It was like him looking out, and they took a picture like down the press row there in the box. It looked like, and him watching the ball game, and it really was kind of a goosebumps deal because I know that things didn't, he left on some bad terms with some people that aren't even there anymore. And it's hard to have it's hard to have a family reunion when the family patriarch isn't a part of it. And the closer he gets to being a part of it. And I know he meets with players and talks to guys a lot. And, it doesn't have to take place in Bloomington for it to be, to qualify. But it is nice to see him start to come back some.
And now the fact that he has purchased a home in Bloomington and is expected to probably be moving here at some point soon. But that it just continues, I think, to boggle the minds of so many people who, for so long, that divorce was there. Now to see that potentially thawing. As somebody who played for him and was actually on the last teams here that he coached, what does it mean to you to see that?
Oh, I can't remember exactly when I heard about that or who told me, but it just like, it really did take me. I was like, "Are you sure about that?" Because it was like, everybody needs to probably make sure they have their souls right because Tiger Woods won a major and Coach Knight's moving back to Bloomington, and so everybody needs to make sure that everything's in line because it seems to be some strange things, but some great things happening. I was glad. I was just telling somebody this. I may have told you this story or not, but they were asking me the other day about, and this kind of a family connection on my end. My granddad and Coach Knight strangely hit it off. My granddad was an old coach, but he's also a Church of Christ minister, so it's kind of an odd couple. But they talked several times when my granddad would come up, and anyhow, while Coach Knight was at Texas Tech, and he had just gotten his 880th victory, I think it was, and I had called to congratulate him. It was around about time that my granddad had actually remarried after my granny had passed away a couple of years previously. He'd found this great lady that attended church there, and they'd married. And that's not really, big news anywhere, especially in Lubbock, Texas, in the middle of a basketball season. Well, anyhow, I called Coach Knight, and I get him on the phone. And I was like, "Coach, I didn't want to bother you. Just wanted to congratulate you on the win." He said, "Kirk, let me ask you a question." I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Did your granddad want to get married or did he have to get married? And I said, well, I have to this day, I have no idea how he knew that, but I was like, Coach, I don't think it was a shotgun wedding. You know, I think my granddad is well past that point in his life. But it's just it's stuff like that has always kind of people maybe don't get a good feel for how Coach Knight is behind the scenes sometimes.
We got to take a quick break here. We'll be back with more Kirk Hasted here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Excited as always to have Kirk Hasted on with us. And it's crazy. And your life has gone into different turns. I know that politics was probably not something you saw coming maybe 10 years ago. But it is from your game or from your life in basketball, the things you've learned. What have you taken from that into the political world? Because that's a whole different world for people, man.
It is, but there's... As with most things, I think playing sports for kids, I think is in a day and age when we're getting further and further away from wanting to hurt, little Billy and little Susie's feelings, and everybody's doing good, everybody gets a gold star. Sports is like a really true litmus test of the real world. You have to work hard. You have to work within a team concept. A lot of times you have to compete. You have to just deal with just heartbreak, loss, and things. You do everything right, and it still doesn't work out. Sometimes I'm like, this is the real world. And I would say it really applies to the political world and trying to, you think you're close to heaven. Several times there was a bill that I'd been working on, thought I was getting close, and you'd have the rug pulled out from underneath you, and it's just I'd say the key word that comes to mind that would apply to both is just adjustments. Being able to adjust and be able to, to kind of scout out the next situation. You're scouting out the next team. You're trying to find out all the best angles and everything to attack an issue on the court. And that's all that is really similar to kind of the mentality you have to be a good legislator.
And how long have you been in office now? It's been like about a year?
About 1 year. I've got it's a 2-year term, so I've got another year, and then I'll be up for re-election, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I've enjoyed it so far. Every day. It took me a while to not feel like I was, about the first couple of weeks going to the Capitol every day. I felt more like I was back in, my grade school days, and I was leaving from taking a field trip every day, and I was just kind of, I got my pass. Like the first day, I got my little pass that keys you in. If you're ever in town, if you're here on like a Sunday night at 11 p.m., I can somehow, they've allowed me to be able to get into the Capitol at any point in time with this key card until further notice. Like I've taken some friends up there. We're probably going to sneak in some cornhole boards before the next election in case I don't get reelected, and sneak them in at about midnight just to say we've played cornhole on the House floor. But that first day I got my key card, I just remember walking around and walking past security guards and state troopers and just scanning cards and walking indoors and just waiting for somebody to kick me out, and they never did. So it's been fun, and as long as I enjoy driving to work each day and leaving work each day, I'm going to continue to pursue it.
Oh, man, I'm coming down just to play cornhole in the Tennessee House floor. That would be amazing to be a part of that. And it's funny just to hear that kind of thought. But now that you've been into it for a year, and that reminds me, you talk about it reminded you of being a kid. And it's one of the things I was going to ask, because they always talk about in politics, the freshman senator from Tennessee or this, that, or the other thing. Did it make you feel like literally like back being a freshman and say at IU when you got the seniors and the guys are just, they know what they're doing and all that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There is, in the loosest, I know that this word comes with a negative connotation these days, but in the loosest, funnest sense of the term, hazing, there is some freshman hazing. In college and in NBA, it was like, taking the bags, bringing the donuts every day. One day, Jamal Mashburn got mad at me because I was supposed to bring Krispy Kreme donuts to walkthroughs, and I brought Krispy Kreme donuts, but they weren't fresh and hot, and so I took some grief for that. And one of the things that they do when you present your first bill on the House floor, there is, one of the senior members on the House floor, one of the representatives will grill you about your bill, and usually it will veer off in some areas like they brought up my paltry NBA statistics on the House floor, and so all of a sudden you're in the well and you're already sweating and you're nervous if you're going to get your first bill passed. The cameras are on you and you're there in front of everybody for the first time, sweating through your suit, and they're saying like, "Man, Kirk, you averaged 7 minutes a game your rookie year. No wonder you looked for a different profession to get into." It was that kind of stuff that they brought up, and so it was all in good fun. And I'm glad I have the first year behind me. I'm hoping that even though I'm technically still a freshman in my first term, it's usually the first year that you really feel like that kind of the greenhorn.
Now, you mentioned Jamal Mashburn, so I assume you're talking about your NBA rookie season.
Yeah.
And so there, you think, now he went to UK, so there's the UK-IU thing. Maybe it was more about UK-IU, man.
It could have been. I don't know what I did to tick off the basketball gods, but I got put on a team with Jamal Mashburn and Jamal McGlure. So I was living, and Robert Tractor Trailer. So it was just like this Hoosier purgatory in a way, but they were. I had a great time with all those. We always called McGlure Big Cat. Me and McGlure got in an argument one day because he and I played against each other in college, and we played at Freedom Hall, and we talked, and we argued one day in the locker room about the game, and I knew that we'd lost the game, but we were saying, he was like, "I did this to you, young fella, young buck. I used to do this. I had this kind of game." And I said, "No, you didn't. I did this to you." And so I got home and I looked up the stats, and I came back the next day and I said, "Big Cat, I said, in that game, you had 4 points, 3 fouls, and 2 rebounds, and I had 4 points, 1 foul, and 3 rebounds. So let's neither one of us talk about this game ever again. We both stunk. And so, that's probably the thing that you miss the most, and this is probably pretty consistent when you talk to athletes. The thing you really miss the most, I miss the travel, and being with the team and being on the buses and the planes and in the locker room, and it's that kind of camaraderie that you just can't really duplicate that in any other work environment, and it's such a bizarre world to live in, where you're just going and going to gyms, and you're just it's just living out of a kid's dream, really. So I'm thankful that I had, even though it was a short time period of a career, I was glad to have had it.
Oh, I was glad for you to have had it. Now, and talk about that rookie year. What was the worst thing that they made you do as a rookie? Because a lot of times, like you said, they make you carry the bags or go get lunch or whatever it is, but it's always something.
Well, probably the best move that they did on me, the best move they gave me was the first game. It was a home game in Charlotte. They brought me in the huddle, and it was like the normal thing, a little pep talk from Baron Davis about what we're going to do that game. And then they were like, "This is Kirk's first game, rookie. Lead us out in the court." So they tossed me the ball to lead out the warm-ups, and so I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And everybody just takes off running, and I get out there and I start hearing laughter in the arena, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And I circle out to half court, and everybody's kind of giggling, and I get out to half court and I look behind me, and there's nobody there. It's just me with a basketball. So the entire team had acted like they were running behind me, and then, I think it was Baron Davis that was second in line, and he would just stop and hold everybody back, and then they would backtrack back towards the locker room, and then you're just sitting out there for like 3 or 4 minutes dribbling at half court.
Oh, well, at least you had the court to yourself, man.
Yeah, that was my shining debut.
Well, now you're a signing legislature, and you're in a position that you've always been a guy. You've looked towards serving other people. Like I said, everything you do is in servitude, and which is great and admirable. What's some of the best things that you've been able to get done as a legislature?
Well, I'd say one of the big things that we did this year is we passed a bill that was called the Katie Beckett Waiver Act, and what it did was there was about 3,000 kids, special needs kids, that were needing special medical care, whose families were just above the minimum threshold to be eligible to get full medical coverage. And what this act did, and a lot of this goes to Governor Lee to be commended for pushing this through on his budget. They made room in the budget, up to I think it was around maybe $30 or $40 million. They made room in the budget to make sure that these 3,000 families were able to get some additional care, so that parents could stay at home a little bit more and not have to work extra jobs and everything. And it's those days when you leave that you really do have like some goosebumps about, like, we are doing some good. A lot of times it's some wheel spinning, but there was a lot of days like that where you felt like, after you talk with these families and meet some of these kids, that it's worth kind of some of the headaches and some of the stuff you have to put up with when you can get some results like that.
Kirk, and that's got to be very so personally fulfilling to be able to do that. And when was it that you first thought about getting into politics? Because that's not an avenue that everybody goes, but you've got a great outgoing personality. But it's more about that. It's more about serving your community, and you do an exceptional job at that. But what led you to that point?
Well, I really think that at the root of it, and there's a lot of things in the pie chart that kind of play into that feeling of wanting to do it. But I think part of it at the root is, growing up in the community that I did in the district, even though I served 3 other counties besides my home county, there was a lot of support and a lot of help that I had, back when I was in college, and the tornado came through and my mom was killed. There was just so much this community did to help me out, and and just came together, and just the support that they gave me there. You just, at some point, you feel like you can't ever repay debts like that. It's just those have a priceless value to them. But you just want to say, well, if I can do this thing, and I feel like that this is something that might help the area and the community. If you don't take a shot at it, then you kind of have to look yourself in the mirror and be like, well, why? What are you scared of to do this? If these people are willing to help you out, you need to be willing to help them out sometimes. So that's part of it. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into it, but that's definitely somewhere in the conversation of the reasons why.
And losing a parent is probably one of the most devastating things that can happen to a person. I lost my mom this year as well, but it was not, yours was sudden, completely unexpected. You were a kid away at college and at a time of your life where there's so much upheaval as it is, but that had to be such a traumatic time for you and having such an impact on your life today.
Yeah, and one person, anytime that I talk about my college days and surrounding, losing my mom during those times, I can't have a conversation without thanking the Tim Garl, who has been with the basketball program forever, the trainer there, and he put me in touch with a really good counselor. And I'll just say this, it was kind of a tough thing to admit that you needed some help, especially when you're a 19, 20-year-old athlete and you're, like, I'm going to go talk about my feelings with somebody. And it was the best thing that could have happened to me. And having somebody there smart enough and that cared enough to say, like, listen, you're going to do this. You need to go talk to this person. If you don't like it, then, we'll reevaluate, but just give it a shot. And so, that was a big help. And so I always thank Tim Garl, for putting me in contact with a good counselor that helped me and I just commend anybody out there that is going through something. Don't be ashamed to ask for help, because I mean, there's people out there that have been through things and have that just know how to. The best way for people to get out of a hole sometimes is to talk with people that've been in that same hole, and so that's what I did, and it helped me.
It's funny. We live in this society where everybody gets a star. You actually mentioned it earlier in the interview, but unfortunately, people have a hard time sometimes admitting that they need help, but part of that is because society has shamed us into making that a weakness of sorts sometimes, and it's not. But it's a weird duality of society in those thoughts.
I really think, and I think that it could be turning a little bit. I've been really impressed with some people. Like, I think it was recently in the last couple of years that Kevin Love came out and put a voice to, like, that he had some, I think maybe some anxiety issues and stuff like that. And it's healthy for kids and everybody to know that, that there's some of the people that they look up to as role models and people like Kevin Love and some others. I know that there's a couple guys in the NFL that have come out and spoken to this as well, that you're never too big, too strong or anything to ask for help and to seek some guidance. And so that, I know it was a big help to me.
And it always is. I hope that anyone who's in a position like that just to please do that. But and you've been a role model for things like that, and now you've got your kids that you're moving forward to. What are you wanting to show them most in the service that you're giving back to your community?
I think that one of the main things I've tried to be consistent with them, and I think this pertains somewhat to what the job I'm in right now, but for what they're going into with some of their endeavors, whether it's my daughter with gymnastics or my sons with golf and basketball, I want them to be even keel and not dread what it feels like after losses, in the car ride home and not feel too bad after losses and not get too full of themselves after wins you really have to just have a really, just consistent positive outlook and just realize that, you can't give people that are negative in your life the power to change your mood. So if you can find a way to be happy each day, no matter, what negativity's out there, then you're going to be way ahead of the game.
And it's an incredible position to take and be on, and we're fortunate to have you on, and appreciate you always being there to visit with us. We greatly appreciate it. One thing we always ask, and it's getting tougher because you always have so many great ones, is to come up with a favorite story on the way out. You've told so many great ones, but and I know it's getting tougher because the more we do this, you're using all your good stuff up, man. So I don't know, what do you have left?
Probably the tough part is I can't remember the ones I've already told and ones I haven't told. It's probably the toughest issue. I will tell this one. This was, and have I told you? Did I tell you about playing against Michael Jordan? Have I told you that story?
I do not recall if you did, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So it's not really anything greatly funny in this story. It's just one of the ones that my high school players always like to make fun of me about. Was I did get a chance in Jordan's final year when he was with the Wizards and I was with the Hornets. I got a chance to play in a game that he played in, and he and I in that game combined for 53 points. And I tell them, they always remind me he had 51 of them. And I did make sure to keep the stat sheet of that game, because any stat sheet that had my name and Jordan's name on the same sheet was one for a keeper. But I was 1 of 1 from the field that game, so he missed like 12 shots. I mean, so who had a better game? So, but anyhow, the epilogue of the story is we're in the locker room after the game, and a ball boy comes over from the Wizards, and it was Jordan's last year, and Jordan was picking out a player that he'd played against a lot over the years that he respected from each team, and he would send over his game-worn shoes. And so Stacey Augmon was on our team, and so they brought the shoes in to give to Stacey, and it had a giant Michael Jordan autograph on each side of on the outside of each shoe. These brand new, because he only wore them one time famously, and would go to a new pair each game. Size 16 Jordan shoes that he just scored 51 points in at 38 years old, I think he was, or 37. And so I'm on the way to the bus. For some reason, nobody really wanted to do a lot of interviews with me and my 2 points. So I got done pretty early with the media, and I was on the way to the bus, and he's like, and Stacey was like, "Yo, Rook, can you carry these to the bus for me?" And I was like, "Sure." And so I'm just walking to the bus with these, game-worn Jordan shoes in my hands, and there was a lot of moments that I had going through my basketball life where I just kind of thought to myself, how in the world did I get to this point in my life? But I was like, this is the happiest I've ever been to carry some nasty, sweaty shoes in my hand. I just was hoping I didn't get mugged on the way to the bus.
Well, you should have kept one of them.
I wanted to work out a deal, but I think that those were locked. I think those were locked in.
Kirk, man, I can't thank you enough. You were always the greatest guest, and so gracious with your time and everything with us. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks.
Brother, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you when you come up for a visit. Kirk Haston, former IU great. Kirk, have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
That's going to wrap it up right now. We'll be back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat. A great time with Kirk Haston, but we got more coming up right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100.
the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Monday. We're in August. It's August 4th, and that means we're, 27 days from kickoff. Mike Schuman's with me from the Daily Hoosier. Mike, how are you, brother?
Doing great, Jim. How you doing?
Good, good. We're getting closer and closer to football kickoff. I'm juiced for football this year. I mean, I'm just ready. Of course, we always are at this time of year. We've gone without it for so long, and we've gone through the summer with just some patchwork fill-in sports to get us to that next thing. But it's time for college football.
It is, man, and it's kind of like a rite of passage, as you say. This time of year, you find a reason to be excited about Indiana football. And I think you and I and others were talking Thursday at the media day that, you know what, irrespective of what the results are, this is actually a good Indiana football team. They may not come out above 500 this year. It's been a long time since we could say that they have, but irrespective of that, when we all know about the schedule, it is still a good football team. I mean, I know Indiana's had a lot of bad football teams through the years, some 0-11 type teams, but this whether they end up 5-7, 6-6, 7-5, this is a good team. It's a good emerging program, and I think there's legitimate reasons this time around to be excited, but we'll have to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, there's no doubt that this is headed in the right direction. I mean, my gosh, he's having success at the recruiting level at unparalleled levels. He's doing things that nobody else has ever done. And so with that, even with that, it's going to take time to get it turned around. And this is a guy that if you look at all the guys who have had the opportunity, he's probably the least likely to get it done, but he seems like he's heading in the best direction of most of them. So it's a little surprising. And there's still a lot of people who are on the sideline. When I post something the other day, I saw some guy post, if they don't make a bowl game, he needs to be fired ASAP. And I'm like, that's just a kind of an ill-informed statement, because if you're around the program, there's no way that you can't see this thing is trending in an upward direction.
Yeah, it's still a very young team, and I think unless there's just some kind of disaster, like an 0-12 type season, which nobody expects, especially with the non-conference schedule that they have, Tom Allen's going to get a chance to see these recruiting classes make it to upperclassmen. And at that point, then you can start having those conversations about bowl or bust. But we're not there this year, as long as they don't completely lay an egg this season. And I don't think anybody expects that they will.
No, I actually expect them to not only make a bowl game, I think that they may be in their best position to win a bowl game for the first time in, 80, 90 years? Just kidding, it hasn't been that long, but it seems like it. But
I think that they're going to be better than 500, to be honest with you. But that's a tough row to hoe. I mean, people have to understand they play not only in the Big Ten, but the Big Ten East, the juggernaut, the meat grinder of all divisions in college football, in my mind. It's just a tough place to be, man. And then you add in having to play against Northwestern, who was last year's West Division winner. You have to go to West Lafayette. That's a tough place to play. But I still think they overcome and they do what they need to do to get done. But it's early in the process. They've got to find a quarterback, and that process got underway last Friday with first practice.
Yeah, and I was not able to attend that practice, so I thought it would be kind of neat for me to flip the script here and ask you some questions. I've heard some rumblings about, how different guys look, but I'm curious myself. And so, I mean, I saw you tweeted out on social media that you gave top billing to Peyton Ramsey. What impressed you the most?
Well, he was just, as he should be, he was just more in tune. He's had 2 years of experience prior to this, and so he's already there. He's already geared up. And yeah, they're putting in a new scheme, but it's probably a lot more new terminology than it is plays. And so it's not as difficult to grasp. But then you've got Jack Tuttle. He's still a freshman, man. He's still young, so he doesn't have the experience. He may have better tools overall, but he doesn't have the experience yet that, say, Peyton Ramsey has. And then, of course, Michael Penix is still knocking some rust off. He's overcome a major knee injury. He's back. He's completely healthy and ready to go. But it's not the same as, say, Peyton Ramsey, who's been healthy that whole time and able to go through everything he's been able to go through. So, and he made some nice throws. I mean, he hit one throw. He hit Ivory Winters, a running back, and that's going to be a point of emphasis, by the way, of using the running backs more in the passing game. But anyway, he hit Ivory Winters on a dead run in stride down the sideline that would have been a touchdown in any game. And so that's the kind of things. But, of course, the big knock on him has been going downfield, and we'll see if that changes. But it's a long way to go, and it's early in the process. But, yeah, I started doing the 10-point must system. It just kind of came to me. Thought it was kind of funny, and I'm going to continue that for the rest of the fall camp. But there's no doubt Peyton Ramsey just looked the smoothest. He just looked the most confident and made some good throws.
We all know about Penix's arm strength. Could you discern a difference between Tuttle and Ramsey in terms of their arm strength?
No, not yet. I don't think that because we haven't seen much in practice yet. They're not really opening it up just yet. But on those 15, 20-yard passes, I haven't seen it just yet. But like I said, that's probably going to start taking place this week as they start putting more plays in. They're going more live action plays, put pads on, I think, for the first time yesterday. So that will probably manifest itself here pretty soon.
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, I've gotten to the point where I believe Peyton Ramsey can throw the deep ball, but when I think about his arm strength, the thing that I'm still not convinced about is his ability to throw a really tight and quick out pattern. And I've never really seen him do that to the point where, I don't know that defenses necessarily have to honor that part of the field as much. And so I think that's where he, for me anyway, has to show something more. I think when he's thrown a deep ball, he's shown an ability to be accurate more often than not, especially towards the latter part of last year and even into the spring game. So I think that'll be something interesting to watch. With Penix, the thing, and I was interested when I saw you give him the lowest grade, albeit everybody got a decent grade. The thing that stood out to me is something Nick Westbrook said recently about how he didn't feel good about coming back from an ACL injury until the Ohio State game last year. And that was well over a year beyond Westbrook's injury. And so, Penix is, still well under a year. And so how long is it going to take him, I wonder, to really feel good? And is that going to hold him back in this competition? Because he's just not going to have the confidence to go full bore on that knee.
Yeah, I get it. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, especially when you put the pads back on for the first time. He hasn't been hit yet. I mean, they haven't really cut loose. They probably won't allow that happen on the quarterbacks, by the way. But
Right.
that hard hitting has not taken place. Just the sound of that crunching going on around you and all that. So that's about to come into play here. We'll see. I think that's a great question, but we'll certainly find out. And I think, again, though, over time, we saw how quickly Penix picked up on things last year. He was there. That Penn State game, he looked great right up to the time he went down with that knee injury. So it's just knocking some rust off, I think. He's too good of a player, too good of an athlete. Jack Tuttle's too good of a quarterback as well. I think it may take a week, but I think things will really start to solidify.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting how long they let this go. I mean, I think DeBoer alluded to this Thursday at the IU media day that optimally they would have had this figured out when he was hired back in January, so he could have his guy at his side at all times, really integrating him into the system. The longer this goes and the longer everything's been split between three different guys, it's just going to make things that much more difficult. So I'm going to be really curious. The longer it goes, clearly it's because they are truly undecided. I think last year they cut it off because there was a clear consensus with Ramsey taking the top billing. But I'll be interested to see how soon that happens once again.
I think they take it right up to a week before the first game. I truly do. And that'll give whoever that quarterback is that full week to be the number one guy. But I think they're to give him the opportunity right up until that point because of a lot of what I just said. Penix has got to knock a little bit of the rust off. Tuttle is still young in the process. So give him a week, of this contact period to really get adjusted to it. And then you got a week or two to make it happen. And that's your opportunity. But I think without a doubt, they're going to name a quarterback a week before that game so they can go into that game knowing who their guy is.
And then I guess it's going to be interesting. Obviously not something we would have really wanted to talk with the players and coaches about last week. But, if these three guys are as talented as we think they are, where does that leave the two guys that are the odd guys out? Both, especially if it's Penix and Tuttle, you're talking about freshmen. Are they? How long are they going to be willing to sit and watch? That's going to be an interesting side story, especially after last year with how quickly one of the guys, Dawkins, left the program almost immediately. So
yeah, but how many places
could
they expect to go and play as a freshman, start as a freshman? There's not many good programs where that's the case, unless you have a Tua down at Alabama.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't expect anything like that, but it is interesting long term to think, and especially when you think about Tuttle and Penix both being freshmen. One of them's probably going to be the odd guy out going forward. I wouldn't expect them both to want to sit for 4 years, but it's a possibility.
We'll see. I saw you have a piece on Deontay Craig, a football recruit for Indiana, but also potentially a basketball recruit.
Yeah, he has the opportunity to be a walk-on at Indiana. He's recently told the recruiting services that he's, I don't think he said he's down to Iowa and Indiana, but those are the kind of his top two right now. And he has said previously that he wants to wrap up his process before his high school season starts, which is, just a matter of weeks at this point, less than 2 weeks really. So that's a guy, it's probably the top IU football recruit on the board. He's a 3-star, but it's a very high level 3-star nearing 4-star status in football. And then on the basketball side, I mean, he was a junior all-star. He's been a part of the last 2 state finalist teams at Culver, teammates there with Trey Galloway. Played a AAU ball all the way through high school at the highest level on the Under Armour circuit. So, this is a very high level athlete in both capacities. And, I don't know that he could ever become a guy that gets meaningful playing time on the basketball side of things, but it sounds like he's going to at least get that shot if he chooses Indiana.
There you go. It'd be one of those rare guys that dual sport athletes in today's world that we don't really see anymore. You didn't always see a ton of it, but it used to be, I don't want to say common, but it wasn't uncommon to see it. Man, you just don't see that anymore hardly.
No, you don't. I mean, you certainly don't see an Antoine Randall type that gave it a go at 3 sports, at least at one point. I think he played baseball for a season or maybe two. You don't ever see that anymore, but even the 2-sport guys are really rare, and I know Craig's talked to some of the guys that have attempted to do it to try to get their views on what it takes and whether or not it makes sense, but it does definitely seem like he's leaning towards that route.
Speaking of IU basketball, still no assistant coach hired yet. No word on that. They've been keeping that pretty close to the vest. It's undoubtedly a recruiting position, so this could be somebody that a lot of people never even heard of whenever he's announced, whoever this person ends up being. I don't necessarily think that this is going to come from a big school. This could be someone who's more on the recruiting side. But then again, maybe it shocks you or surprises you. What are the chances that this is a name that's known?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard rumors of names, and I'll say one because I don't even believe it's true. Is Calbert Cheney? I don't
funny
think that's
because the rumor I heard was Michael Lewis.
That one would stun me if he kind of reversed course on UCLA.
That's why I kind of laughed at it. I'm like, man, I go, wow, I'm sure it's a dream job, but he just got to UCLA. As a matter of fact, I had Michael on not too long ago, and I asked him about that direct possibility, and if I'd have been smart enough, I would have, I'll see if we can get that clip pulled up.
I mean, Jim, I've been at UCLA for 2 days. I'm excited to be here.
Well, lo and behold, 2 weeks later, that opportunity indeed comes up. So, I don't know that there's any chance that conversation is being had. Archie hasn't given me any indication that that's something he's looking at, the IU connection, whatever. But I think it's taken longer than some people expected it would, but there's just no reason to hurry right now because the recruiting is kind of set.
Right, yeah, and I think sometimes those old IU names pop up just because there's some wishful thinking going on in some people's mind. But one other name I'm keeping an eye on and would not be surprised about is an assistant that was with Archie for 6 years at Dayton. Kevin Kuick is his name, and he's got a lot of impressive experience, including at Butler and Ohio State, and I believe he's now at Davidson. That's somebody that if Archie wanted to get back to having a little bit more continuity and comfort with his staff, that could be a direction that he goes.
Yeah, but is this about comfort or is this about recruiting success and big-time recruiting success? Because to be honest with you and to be forthright, Indiana has not done a great job recruiting outside of the borders of Indiana. A big reason in Indiana's landing so many Indiana kids is because they're not getting anybody that's not from Indiana.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think I'll be surprised, however, if Archie goes all in on pure recruiting and doesn't also hire somebody that's a current assistant coach. I don't know for sure, but I think he's trying to hit the jackpot and get both of those variables in this hire.
Well, we'll certainly find out because the recruiting does continue to go around. And like I said, while I said it's pretty much set, I think it's set because you got Anthony Leal, who's cut his list down to Stanford and Indiana. I saw, was it Caleb Love, who just cut his list to 6th, I think?
Yep, exactly.
So you've got those guys, but they've only got 3 additional scholarships available for the upcoming for the next season. I'm still thinking they bank one of those for next year because that's that vaunted 2021 class, and that would give them 4 unless something happens with Jerome Hunter. But then you've got who is it that's looking at reclassifying for this year? And I can't remember his name, Mike.
Javante Brown-Ferguson, I believe is who you're talking about. He's a 6'11", perhaps 7-footer out of Canada that's in the class of 2021, but there have been several reports over the last week that he is going to reclass potentially into 2020, and he received an Indiana offer. So that's definitely somebody that could be a good late pickup in that class.
Yeah, and if they did do that, that would kind of upset the apple cart, I think, because I think that would potentially they would end up taking 4 guys this year. Now you're looking at only having 3 available scholarships for that 2021 class. There's a ton of talent in that class, and I know they want to get more than 3 guys out of it.
Yeah, and, like Archie told us back in May, he's not overly concerned about filling every spot, and I would agree. The potential out there for 2021 is much better. And to your point about not having out-of-state success, you don't have to have out-of-state success in 2021. So unless you're going to hit it out of the park with a R.J. Davis or Caleb Love type, I wouldn't be at all opposed to banking scholarships if you felt like you had a better shot with some better guys in the next class.
Well, we'll certainly see how it turns out because that big dial keeps spinning and the time will come along. But we'll certainly find out. Mike, thank you very much. I look forward to it each and every week, man.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much as well. That's Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier for EIU content. Make sure you follow him at thedailyhoosier.com. That's going to wrap it up here for us today from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. I'm heading out to Memorial Stadium for IU football practice. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.